Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where you bring us the complex stuff. White papers, research, you name it, and we dive in.
Yep, our job is to take that dense information and really unpack it, find the core insights, and make it clear and hopefully useful for you.
And today, we've got a source that definitely feels futuristic. It's a white paper talking about a quantum blockchain.
Quantum blockchain. That certainly catches the ear.
It does, and you probably know the usual issues with classical blockchains, right? The massive energy use, scalability problems, the whole quantum computing threat hanging over them, transaction delays, centralization risks.
Absolutely. The paper highlights those right up front. These are real roadblocks. But what's interesting here, the hook, is that this system isn't just proposing a minor tweak. No, it claims to completely rethink how a distributed ledger works. It wants to base the whole trust mechanism on, well, the laws of physics.
The laws of physics, as the validator. That sounds ambitious. The paper suggests this allows for things like absolute validation, unbreakable security, true instant finality, things we don't really get now.
Exactly. Things that seemed maybe impossible for decentralized systems before. So yeah, let's dive into how they actually propose to pull this off.
Okay, so what's the core idea? You mentioned it's not like proof of work or stake.
Right. The paper introduces this concept called Proof of Coherence, or PoCoh, and they're very explicit. This isn't just an iteration. It's a totally different architecture for building and validating the ledger.
Proof of coherence.
Yeah.
And it's based on quantum mechanics.
Directly. That's the foundational layer. And if you look at what they claim in the executive summary, the benefits sound pretty extraordinary because of that physics base.
Like what specifically?
Well, things like 100% classical runtime operation, meaning your average node doesn't need to be a quantum computer day to day.
Yeah.
Microsecond validation speed.
Microsecond. That's incredibly fast compared to what we're used to.
It really is. Plus, zero mining overhead, no need for staking assets, and it's apparently free from dependencies on specific on-chain hardware for the actual validation process.
Okay, that list sounds almost too good to be true. How does quantum mechanics actually make that possible? What are the principles involved?
That paper mentions a few key quantum concepts that PoCoh relies on. There's quantum superposition, a particle being in multiple states at once.
Yeah.
And quantum entanglement. That's the really weird one. Linked particles influencing each other instantly, regardless of distance. The spooky action, as Einstein called it.
Right, I've heard of that.
And crucially, they mention Bell-type inequalities and the CHSH framework. These aren't just theories, they're ways to experimentally prove that these quantum correlations are real and, importantly, stronger than anything classical physics can explain. That experimental proof part is vital here.
Okay, so entanglement is provably non-classical. What else?
Then there's wave function collapse. When you measure a quantum system, it snaps into one definite state, and that process is irreversible. You can't undo the measurement perfectly.
Irreversible. That sounds important for security, maybe.
Absolutely. It's like a unique event marker. They also talk about quantum coherence and visibility. Coherence is about maintaining those fragile quantum relationships. Visibility is how you measure that in their system. It has to cross a specific threshold, Beeman, which they state is 2.4.
2.4. Where does that number come from?
It's related to Zarielson's bound in physics. It basically sets a limit for classical correlations in these types of experiments. If your measurement exceeds 2.4, you've demonstrated something genuinely quantum, something classical physics can't reproduce.
So the check is literally, does this signal look quantum enough based on a known physics boundary?
Essentially, yes. Is the quantum signal strong and clear? And finally, the no cloning theorem. This is fundamental. You simply cannot make a perfect copy of an unknown quantum state. Physics forbids it.
Okay, so entanglement, collapse, coherence thresholds, no cloning. Quite a toolkit from quantum physics. But how do these things actually validate a block? That's the leap I'm trying to make, this proof of coherence.
Right. This is where it gets really different. The core mechanism involves a unique signature, they call it sigma, in each block header.
Okay, like a digital signature.
Sort of, but its origin is completely different. This sigma doesn't come from solving a math puzzle or from validators voting with their stake. It originates from a single high-visibility Bell or CHSH quantum experiment. Something performed once during an initial quantum native setup phase for the system.
So each signature is born from a unique quantum measurement event, not computation.
Exactly. Now here's the validation part, and this is key. Every node on the network could be a big server, could be a tiny Raspberry Pi, doesn't matter, performs a check that is purely local and deterministic.
Local. meaning it doesn't need to talk to other nodes to validate that specific block.
Correct. Not for validating the block itself. The node just runs a function using the signature from the header. It's instantaneous.
And what does this function f actually do?
It tests if the quantum correlation encoded in that signature, sigma, is strong enough to violate those classical physics limits we talked about. Specifically, the paper says it checks if the signature's Bell score is higher than that B-min threshold of 2.4.
So the check isn't, did enough miners work on this? Or did enough stake vote yes? It's literally, does this signature contain evidence of a quantum effect that classical physics cannot explain?
You've got it. It's like the signature carries an unforgeable quantum watermark, and the function f is just a straightforward physics test on that watermark. The result is binary. Yes, this is valid because it shows the right quantum properties, or no, it's not. It's derived directly from physics encoded in math.
Wow, okay, that's fundamentally different.
It is, and that's why they claim you get instant finality for that block, and why you don't need mining or staking or network consensus rounds just to confirm if one block is valid according to the rules.
The trust isn't in the network majority, it's in the physics itself. That's a huge shift. What does that imply for security then? You know what? Let's explore that further, right after this quick word from our sponsors.
For peace of mind, get PoCoh.
And we're back. Before the break, we were talking about the implications Proof of Coherence has for security.
This is a major selling point in the paper. The security guarantees stem directly from these quantum mechanical principles, not from math problems that might be breakable later, especially by quantum computers.
So how does that stop common attacks, like, say, double spending?
Okay, double spending. The defense there is primarily the no-cloning theorem and wave function collapse. Physics says you cannot perfectly copy the unique quantum state embedded in that valid signature sigma.
Can't copy it perfectly.
Right. And if you try to use it, the measurement aspect collapses the state. So the idea is you physically can't duplicate a valid signature to authorize spending the same asset twice. It's prevented by the physics.
Okay, physically impossible to duplicate. What about forged signatures? Someone trying to fake one.
If someone tries to create a fake sigma that looks like it came from a valid quantum experiment, the paper argues it would inevitably fail the coherence check. Trying to fake that specific type of quantum entanglement would, well, break the entanglement properties. The validation function f, checking against that B-min threshold, would spot the discrepancy. It wouldn't look quantum enough.
The physics check catches the forgery attempt. Makes sense.
I can see you're trying to beat it, like in your head. You're trying to figure out how you can work around it.
Yeah, I totally am. There may not be a way, though. At least I don't see it. It's wild to think about, though. Something truly unbreakable. What about things like 51% attacks?
They become irrelevant, according to the paper, because validation is this local physics-based check. An attacker controlling 51% or even 99% of the nodes can't force an invalid block onto the chain. Each honest node independently verifies the block against the physical rules embedded in sigma. An invalid sigma fails the check, regardless of how many nodes claim it's valid.
Node consensus doesn't override the physics check.
Precisely. Node count is decoupled from block validity. And similarly for Sybil attacks creating lots of fake identities. The paper states node identity plays no role in the validation. It's all about whether the sigma in the block header passes the physics test. It doesn't matter who presents the block.
Okay, so the core validation seems resistant. What about forks? Or someone trying to replay an old transaction?
Address 2. If you change anything in a block, alter the transactions, which changes the Merkle root, you need a new valid sigma for that modified header. Generating a new valid quantum sigma without access to the original quantum foundation setup is described as effectively impossible.
Right, you can't just compute one.
Exactly. And if you try to just reuse an old valid sigma on a new block or at a different position in the chain, the paper says that would either create a header hash collision, making it obviously invalid, or violate a rule against duplicate sigmas being used, causing the local validation function to reject it.
So it seems like the physics provides built-in resistance to many classic attack vectors. Okay, shifting gears a bit. If this system offers such inherent security and instant validation, where could you actually use it? What kinds of real-world applications does the white paper envision?
Oh, the list of potential applications is huge. It covers a really broad spectrum, largely because of those core properties, unforgeability and instant physics-backed finality.
Give me some examples.
Okay, financial services is a big one. Think quantum secure transactions with immediate absolute settlement. Asset tokenization where the token itself is physically impossible to counterfeit. Cross-border payments settling instantly without relying on chains of intermediaries.
Unforgeable digital assets.
Oh.
Yeah, that would be massive.
Definitely. Then there's supply chain management. Imagine quantum verified provenance. You track a product's origin not just with a database entry, but with a record tied to something physically unforgeable. Fighting counterfeit goods, ensuring ethical sourcing, that could be revolutionized.
Knowing for sure where something came from, provably, that's powerful.
It really is. Healthcare applications, too. Secure patient records, tamper-proof by physics, verifying clinical trial data integrity, tracking pharmaceuticals to prevent fakes. Imagine a medical history guaranteed correct by quantum mechanics.
That changes trust in health data entirely. What about government or public sector?
Things like voting systems, unforgeable, maybe anonymous, vote records that are instantly verifiable, immutable land registries, transparent public records. A voting system inherently resistant to many forms of digital tampering seems, well, incredibly relevant.
Hugely relevant. I saw Internet of Things mentioned too.
Yeah, quantum-verified device identity. With billions of connected devices, knowing a device's claimed identity is physically authentic seems crucial for security. It tackles a fundamental trust issue in IoT.
And identity generally.
Right, identity and access management. Things like self-sovereign identity, where your credentials have this physics-based verification behind them.
And the last one was intellectual property.
Yeah, things like unforgeable timestamping for when a creation was made, managing licenses, distributing royalties automatically based on usage tracked on this secure ledger. Think about proving undeniably when you invented something or wrote a piece of music.
That's a big deal for creators. Looking at that whole list, I mean, which ones jump out to you as potentially the most impactful?
That's tough. Personally, the supply chain provenance and the identity government applications feel very compelling. The idea that a digital record, who owns what, who voted, where medicine came from, who you are, could be physically impossible to tamper with. It just cuts through so much of the uncertainty and fraud we deal with now.
I agree. Those feel really fundamental, but we have to take a quick break. But when we come back, we'll look beyond the theory. Can PoCoh be implemented? Right after this.
There you go. One for you. One for you. There's quantum blockchains for everyone.
Take your privacy back with QBLEX.
Financial markets are reacting positively today to news that a new type of quantum blockchain is imminent. Join us for more tonight at 11.
Okay, this all sounds great theoretically. How do you actually build this? What does the paper say about the practical side, the implementation?
Good question. The paper does address this. It acknowledges that you need specific infrastructure, especially at the start. For that initial foundation phase where the original quantum signatures, sigmas, are generated, you do need access to serious enterprise-grade quantum processing infrastructure.
Ah, so there is a quantum hardware requirement.
Yes, but crucially, only for that initial setup. For the day-to-day runtime operations, validating blocks, processing transactions, the system is designed to run on standard classical hardware. They explicitly mention even small devices like a Raspberry Pi being sufficient for a node to perform that local physics check.
Okay, that's a really important distinction. Quantum needed to create the foundation, but standard tech to run the network day to day. That makes it seem much more feasible for widespread use.
Exactly. It lowers the barrier for participation significantly after setup. They also talk about deployment models offering flexibility. Things like hybrid quantum classical setups using cloud-based quantum computing access, or fully on-premises solutions for organizations that need that level of control.
So how does this stack up against, say, Bitcoin or Ethereum, or even other concepts trying to blend quantum and blockchain?
The paper includes a comparison table. The key difference, as we've hammered home, is that validation mechanism. Quantum coherence measurement versus computational puzzles, proof of work, or stake-based voting, proof of stake.
And that core difference leads to all the others.
Pretty much. Energy efficiency, low versus typically very high. Quantum resistance, claimed to be inherently resistant because it's based on quantum physics versus classical crypto, which is vulnerable. Transaction finality, Immediate and guaranteed by the physics check versus probabilistic and often slow. Scalability, potentially much higher due to local validation removing consensus bottlenecks. But don't worry about your Bitcoin and Ethereum just yet. Perhaps it's not a either-or thing. They make specific references to fortifying today's financial ecosystem. Imagine PoCoh blockchains that could add that important post-quantum security piece.
Okay, that's a huge change from what we're used to hearing. Quantum computing doesn't threaten Bitcoin, it ushers it into a secure future.
Exactly. The trust anchor moves significantly.
And the basis of security itself shifts from computational difficulty to physical law.
You could say it's a blockchain in harmony with nature.
Oh, you've been saving that one, haven't you? So this sounds like a more comprehensive ledger system built using quantum principles, not just using quantum concepts for, say, communication channels. Does the paper mention what's next?
Yes. The technology itself is patent pending, and this seems to be something that is moving pretty quickly. The company behind PoCoh, AI Maven, indicates that the initial launch will focus on enterprise and financial services and for general-purpose applications to follow. So the tech is ready.
Okay, so we've really dug into this white paper. We looked at this core idea, proof of coherence, how it uses quantum mechanics like entanglement and the no-cloning theorem.
How that leads to a validation method based on a direct physics check, providing inherent security against many attacks.
The huge range of potential uses, from finance and supply chains to voting and identity.
And the practical aspects, like needing quantum hardware initially but running on classical tech later.
The big takeaway seems to be this shift. Moving trust away from computation or consensus and anchoring it directly in the fundamental laws of physics.
Yeah, the potential described is pretty profound. Unforgeable records, instant validation, high efficiency. It really challenges how we think about building decentralized trust. It uses quantum not just defensively, but actively to enable new capabilities.
So the thought to leave you with today is this. If the validity of a digital transaction or piece of data, or even your identity, could be guaranteed not by distributed agreement, but by a physical process bound by the unchanging rules of the universe, what does that really mean for trust in our digital future? What possibilities does that kind of fundamental certainty unlock that maybe we can't even fully grasp yet?
And with quantum blockchains now available and compatible with today's infrastructure, are we on the verge of a completely new computing paradigm? Perhaps one based on the superposition of information itself?
If you want to learn more about quantum blockchains or proof of coherence, you can find more on QBLEX.com.